In this video, I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to read through a little bit of a comment thread over on Reddit, and it starts off with, what mixing or engineering hill will you die on? Something that conventional wisdom and mainstream opinion gets totally wrong about mixing, engineering, editing, etc. Where you do the opposite and get great results, or weird tricks or tips every producer should use but nobody really does. And this comment got over, I should say post, got over 318 comments so far. There's the Windows Copilot AI ad. And anyway, here we go. The very first one, which I did read already. Just because someone has a YouTube channel doesn't mean they're right about everything or anything. And I would agree with that. I would 100% agree with that. And you know, it's kind of why I'm thinking about like stepping away from doing real home recording, at least for a few months, because, you know, I don't want to be known as a YouTube audio engineer. And, you know, I think it's kind of disrespectful, but the reality is the vast majority of us, you know, we can't be mainstream, you know, mixing engineers, mastering engineers of the stars. There's just not enough stars to go around. And as much as I would love to have the opportunity, I just don't see it happening unless I get myself a fancy studio and move to Nashville or New York City or Los Angeles or Austin, Texas or Chicago and meet a bunch of people and do a bunch of music with that new equipment. You know, there's just so many to go around. But I'm happy to do what I can at Studio A and recording. You know, I'm happy to be doing that. I would like to be mixing the Ariana Grandes and Bruno Marses of the world, but I just don't see it happening right now. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see it happening. So anyway, I'm going to read some of these. Always be wary of YouTube engineers. Sometimes the question has to be asked. If they're so busy working on records, where do they find the time to make 4 videos a week about compressor settings? That's a good point. And again, if you look at this channel's track record for the past few years, there's not been a lot of videos. So, you know, I guess you can hire people to do the editing, because the recording is the easiest part. Editing, tougher to do. If you can always have a camera and tripod and all that set up, then different story. Okay, here we go. There's a synth guy on YouTube who plays pretty well. He makes fun of the YouTubers with giant Euro racks full of gear and cable spaghetti who never ever show a track they have produced. Pretty entertaining guy, actually. He can really play, though. Yeah. Now, when you say produce, because what I always say is, I'm not a composer. I don't even like calling myself a musician. Like your grandmother or your mother or your father, I can play the guitar or the bass guitar, but so can they. I've dabbled in the keyboard. Very first instrument when I was a kid was the trumpet. And what the heck else did I play? I know there was, drums, duh. Jesus. That was my second instrument. And you guys saw me playing that recently. That's why I kind of like, wait a minute, why did I forget that one? I'm getting old. What can I say? All right. Let's see. Frankly, I cannot understand how one person could both work on records in a meaningful, invested way and create YouTube content. The two fields are extremely demanding, not just of time, but of actual presence and effort. People who do YouTube alone often end up having nervous breakdowns or burning out completely from the demands of the algorithm. That is true. But I will say that people like Glenn Fricker and Warren Hewitt, because they're so popular, they get other people to edit their videos. And that's great. That's a fantastic thing. I hope to one day be at their level, maybe not for audio engineering videos, but for another category that's maybe more universally appealing. But that's how you do it. I mean, if you replace, let's say, watching football on the weekends or going to the movies, if instead of doing something like that, if instead of watching a movie on Netflix or Amazon, like everybody has free time, usually, even if it's like 2 hours a day. And if you can record for even a half hour and have somebody else edit the video, because like I said earlier, editing and mixing the audio and all that stuff, that's what takes up the most time. When I do these videos, it's editing. Editing takes forever sometimes. But recording is simple, and that's why I'm doing just a straight recording right now to knock this one out. So let's see. The two feel, yeah. But yeah, it's true. In fact, there's some channels that used to be really popular on YouTube. Excuse me, not just mine, but they're no longer popular for whatever reason. It happens. I mean, TV shows, they don't last forever. Look at The Walking Dead. Its ratings drop significantly. But anyway, here we go. It's possible to piece together a decent understanding from clips of Sheps and other high-level mixers. I don't know who... Andy Sheps, I guess. And other high-level mixers online, but they almost always start with well-produced tracks, not the beep 99% of people searching YouTube have. That is true, and that's kind of why I'm still doing a channel like this, because I understand, and I made a video, I don't know if I released it, but I said, the ironic part about home studio engineers is that our jobs are tougher. We are starting off with a dirty canvas, as it were. And we have to try to get that dirty canvas into better shape than somebody who starts off using the best tools and the best palette of paint and the best paint brushes. Honestly, that's just the truth. Like, we're dealing with a lot more than what the top level guys are. It's the ultimate irony, but it is what it is. And that's kind of why I did that video a long time ago where I'm like, look, man, I can pretend like I'm somebody I'm not, but the reality is this is how I work. This is how I work. And, in a way, humbling yourself is important to do, and I think that's how this channel is going to stand out because, yeah, there's dozens and dozens of YouTube channels out there with the people who have the, expensive racks full of gear that are worth more than my car. But most of us out there aren't like that. Most of the people out there doing their own thing have, we'll call it a control room like mine, where the speakers aren't set up at a perfect 60 degrees or 45 degrees angle with the tweeter right at the ear level of the person. Like, yeah, that's kind of how it is. But do I get it done? Do my mixes translate? I would say so. And also lately I've been, starting mixes with headphones and using programs like Acoustica Sienna, SonarWorks, and it takes the room and the speakers out of the equation. Well, headphones are technically speakers, but anyway, here we go. The best mixing advice I've found on YouTube is one high-level mixer whose name escapes me, talking about the plugin Death Spiral, where you use 10 plugins and end at a worse result because they all end up countering each other. That's true. When all it really needed was a fader move. I'm of the mind that audio can always be enhanced. Usually. There's usually something I can do to even slightly improve it, if not drastically improve something. Of course, improvement is subjective, and that's why it's important if you're a musician, you hire somebody whose mixes you like. Because I'll never forget the one time I did that mastering job on somebody's mix who it just sounded awful, and I got it to be so beautifully clear and up to industry standards, and they hated it. So it's all, like I said, like one person's great is another person's not so great. So, But luckily, I think most of the time people like what I do. My method is to listen to what they say and try it. If I like the result, I put their trick in my bag. If not, discard it. Yeah, I agree. Okay, here we go. I just apply the same logic as I would with any engineer. If I like the work they've done previously, I'm open to following their advice. I don't think having a YouTube channel legitimizes or delegitimizes anyone. Just trust them based on their work. Okay, I agree with that. And maybe I should start showcasing my work more often, in the outros or something. I used to do that in the beginning. Yep. What? I'm getting so sick of Jordan, I don't know how to pronounce that name, Hardcore Music Studios marketing attempts on that channel. Apparently he's selling classes. Well, I'd say there's nothing exactly wrong with that. In fact, one goal of mine I've always had is to write a book about audio engineering and, pretty much condense hundreds or thousands of hours or whatever is on this channel into a summarized book, because a lot of the lessons are repeated. I mean, there's only so many things you can do. There's, equalization, compression, reverb, delay, coursing effects. There's the fader itself. There's automation. Did I say reverb? There's auto tuning or pitch correction. That could be on vocals or something else. There's only so many things to do. Editing, mix bus compression, sub bus compression, saturation. Yeah. I mean, so there's only so many things to do with a mix. So, condensing it into a book, and not have the book be ridiculously complicated. I mean, that's the tough part, is that you like to explain yourself thoroughly, but you also want to try not to bore people. There's a fine line. Okay, just because they have a YouTube channel doesn't mean they're wrong about everything either. I feel the pendulum swinging too far in the other direction now at times. Thank you for standing up for YouTubers. I mix music on Twitch. Interesting name. Alright. A mix and master shouldn't be a struggle if you made good decisions earlier in the process. Push the decisions until the end and you'll paint yourself into a corner of trying to fix everything that you ignored when you had the chance. I don't think many people disagree with this premise, but they don't practice it and instead look for tricks to fix their sloppy work later on. That's true to an extent. I think sometimes there's, or I should say a lot of times, there may be gear limitations at play, and if you don't have the right microphone for the job, or maybe you're using an older low-cost audio interface that doesn't sound the greatest no matter what microphone you put in front of it, or it's possible that the instrument you're recording or the room you're in all affected your tracks in some negative way. There's so many possibilities. So I wouldn't discount people. And inexperience is like a big thing. I mean, that's the thing. You can say, oh, well, it's sloppy work, but is it? Because I can tell you for a fact that when I started doing this, I mean, first of all, I read a lot, and then I put what I read into practice, but it didn't always work out. It didn't, and it's just a matter of, the big thing I wish I had, a lot of times, is an assistant that I can have a separate control room that's soundproofed and isolated from the live room, and then my assistant moves the microphone around while the musician plays. And that's why I was really excited when that robotic microphone placement system, which I can't remember the name of it right now, but I talked about it right when it first came out. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is great. It's like having an assistant that's a robot, because you don't always have one. Very rarely have I had an assistant working with me. And that assistant is so important, and they don't understand, but more important is having reference quality speakers and an isolated control room while tracking. I think that is just something that a lot of people don't have the luxury of, including myself most of the time. So, yeah. But yeah, practice does make perfect, or as close to perfect as we can get. And man, the melatonin's kicking in finally. I take that to help me sleep. Let's see. Not that I'm stressed out, but I've always had the problem of it taking me sometimes a couple hours to fall asleep, and I got tired of it, and I'm like, let me try this stuff. And it works. So, now what used to take up to a couple hours now takes about 45 minutes. So I'm happy with that. Now, if I wear myself out physically, I'm done a lot quicker than that. Okay, let's see. Once I started getting everything else right, the mixes just got better. That's true. The difference between fixing and mixing, which is why I like to do the pre-mix, guys. The pre-mix, where you take care of all the technical... Speaking of assistants, guys like Chris Lord-Alge, they have production assistants who take care of all the little minutia so that they can then do the actual mix. He doesn't want to have to try to figure out what's making noise on track 27. His assistant does that for him, because there's so much work coming in. You can afford to hire an assistant. Again, I wish I had one myself to take care of the mundane task. But obviously, if Chris Lord-Alge was a one-man gang, he could absolutely do it. But it's just a matter of saving time, man hours, as it were. You can always make boop sound better, so you can fool yourself into thinking there's a solution out there with just the right plugin or something. In reality, all you need to do is rethink or retract the part. And also, another luxury a lot of people don't have is outboard equalizers and compressors while tracking. That's something that I think most people would love to have. They'd love to have a Neve 1084 or 1081 or a Pultec or a distressor or a Music Q. I'm looking at my wall here. An LA3A. We'd all love to have that, but we all don't have an extra. My goodness, just the LA3A and the API. Okay, I'll go with the Neve and the LA3. So that's like $6,000 or $7,000 worth of equipment right there, just for the equalizer, the compressor. Some people just don't have that, and it would be better for them to spend their money, their hard-earned money, on music equipment. Microphone. I said it earlier. Microphone is very important to have. Maybe a decent direct box. Triton Big Amp, I love it. It's less than $100. But having a good musical instrument, practicing, rehearsing, song arrangement, all that stuff matters a lot more than having an LA2A or equalizer. When you can do all that stuff in the box. And I'm leaving out monitors again, but having good speakers is so important. I can't stress that enough. It's like the number one thing. I tried to actually mix on some computer speakers, and I'm like, there's no way. This thing is like, I know what this particular music's supposed to sound like, and it doesn't sound like what I'm used to hearing. So I'm like, I know these speakers are not accurate. So that's why I'm always on about the, IK-ARC or SonarWorks Reference or Slate VSX or Acoustic Sienna, because it's so important to have that. And for Sienna, you need to have decent headphones. I'm not saying you got to spend $500 to $1,000. I'm saying like maybe 150 to 200 will get you a decent pair. And then once you do that, Acoustica Sienna, even the free version of it's really nice, which is cool. Because one thing I hate about this channel is like I feel like I'm a salesperson. So whenever I can recommend freebies, I do. Speaking of which, Noise Ass. Oh my god, I can't believe Noise. I am getting tired. Noise Ash Bax Pro. I'm sorry, the original Bax, not the Bax Pro, is currently free. And if I remember to, I'll leave a link below. But it's on Audio Plugins, audioplugin.deals. Okay. People still talking about, yeah, record better. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Also messing with your guitar tone knobs, choosing, you know, the neck pickup versus the bridge pickup, double tracking, quadruple tracking, stuff like that, and doubling your vocals, quadrupling your vocals. There's so many tricks that I'm not saying everybody has to sound like the commercial radio people, but at least give yourself the option when you're mixing. You can always mute things. You can't add them after the fact. Well, I guess you can. Isotope did put out Nectar, and you can do like a fake harmonizer, which works pretty darn good. But if you can do it for real, it's better. Okay. Yep. The talk goes on and on. Here we go. This is something I'm still learning. I only recently realized that my guitar tone is good enough going in. Excuse me. Gas City today. And once I stopped trying to EQ beyond high/low pass, my guitars, the tracks started sounding a lot better. Cool. Yep. That's true about the SM57. And I don't know about nowadays because of inflation, but I got my SM57 at a pawn shop for $60. The windscreen was $20, I want to say, maybe $15. Not at the pawn shop. I got that one new. But yeah, the 57, good microphone. In fact, if I was super broke, that's the last mic I would probably want to have, because I could record all kinds of beautiful things with that mic. I will not get rid of my SM57. I got rid of the SM58, but not the SM57. I had enough SM58 clones to last me. All right. Let's see. Yep. I'm still pretty new, so it's a hill named I can totally make a living as an engineer. That's funny. What do we say? Don't quit your day job. It's true. The hi-hat goes to the left side. I don't know why. I just prefer it that way. Yeah, that's a whole discussion in itself. I personally, even though I'm a drummer, I prefer, it depends on, I like audience view. Because if I'm at a concert and, most of the time people have the hi-hat on the right side if you're facing the band, and I hear the audio of the hi-hat coming out of the left side more, it just doesn't sound right. But I guess that makes sense if you're mixing live music versus just doing it for an album that, there's no video to go along with it. But then again, there's a music video that might go along with that song. So, yeah. Ask the drummer, though. Ask the band. That is one of the subjective things, and I'm not going to, that's not a hill that I'm personally going to die on. It's all preference for the band. Yep. There you go. Yep. Keep going. Every hi-hat should pan constantly from left to right. And /S means sarcasm, if you're not familiar with that. Most people from Western cultures are taught to read from left to right. Even racing coverage, be it horses, cars, people in the Olympics tend to fit the idea that left to right is a forward direction. In the middle of a song, where a tom fill is used to add energy to a part, why would I want to fight against the already established notion of forward momentum with a fill that goes against the grain? That's how I've always viewed it anyway. You know, that actually kind of makes sense. Yep, in a way. But what if the fill starts with the floor tom? All right, let's see. That this stuff takes time. The whole spending time, effort, and energy getting used to your ears and monitoring situation, the effect it has on your mix, understanding the differences between what your ears and monitors are telling you with regards to references, and understanding/adapting to your acoustic environment. People want to learn everything in a day, especially these days. Working with anything audio is a constant learning curve. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it absolutely is. With no end. Yes, that is true. You're always getting better the more time you spend with your head in a DAW or by dissecting audio, or I like to call it reverse engineering. Just look after the health of your ears. Yep, that's true. When I was cutting grass over the summer, always had the ear protection. I like to wear ear protection when I'm taking a shower, if I could, but it just doesn't seem very, what do you call it? Logical, I don't know. I'm missing the word here, but vacuuming, I wear ear protection. Leaf blowing, same thing. Anytime I'm around loud noises, I like to have ear protection on. Okay, ultimately gaining and building trust. Trust is the key word in all of this ramble I'm giving. With those two things on the side of your head, then we can get on to the topic of using your eyes to watch speaker cone movement or feeling vibrations on the low end to make decisions. Is going to teach you far, far more than any guide, course, YouTube video, tutorial, or any cheat code you think there may be. There's a reason why most of the best mixing engineers are in the older range of middle-aged. They've spent more time getting to know their ears. The young guys that come in and take the world by storm, 9 times out of 10 found that out early by themselves, or had a mentor in his 60s repeatedly drilling that information into his skull until the only words he could say was, use your ears. It's not a catchphrase, it's a necessity that gets overlooked way too often, especially on these music-related subreddits. Use your ears, but I will, again, put an asterisk there, which is, if you don't have a good monitoring situation, just like, I do photography, right? And I have to color calibrate my monitor because out of the box, the monitor is not going to be to the sRGB standard. There's no real standard for audio, but there's, let me rephrase this. There's a few standards, but nobody has forced one upon the speaker makers. SonarWorks is trying to do their sound ID thing, but it's not been successful so far. I respect it, but the closest thing we have, I believe I always reference the Bob Ludwig article. He talks about how JBL did this test, and when they summed all these different speakers together, all their different frequency response charts, it was a flat curve. Now, the problem is flat isn't really flat because our eardrums are not all the same. And that's kind of what Sound ID is aiming to do. And not only does it take our ears into account, it takes our preferences with audio into account. And I think that that is the way forward, because again, flat is not flat to everybody. So, like when I picked a Sienna speaker pair that I liked, I ran a bunch of music through it, through all the different Sienna speakers, and picked what I thought sounded quote unquote best, because the last thing I want is to be mixing against my own natural instincts, if that makes sense. So essentially I want the speakers, which I use Klipsch speakers, Klipsch THX certified Pro Media 2.1 or 4.1 speakers. I kind of want those, but with less deficiencies, and I want to take this room out of the equation. You're hearing reflections off this desk. When I wear hearing aid, when I wear headphones, the room is taken out of the equation with Sienna. So, anyway, I think I've said enough. Well, this video, let's see. Did the video stop? Okay, no, it's going now. 31:14. Cheaper hardware can get you professional results. Yeah, that's true. It's absolutely amazing what technology has brought to people who are on a budget. I mean, seriously, just I used to say 10 years ago, but now it's 15. 15 years ago, this equipment just was not available. So, and I'm so grateful to have heard about the Audient interface. And again, I'm going to sound like a salesperson. I can't vouch for the newer Audient audio interfaces, but the ID14, the ID22, and the original ID4 just are amazing pieces of equipment. The preamp is nice. The converters in and out are nice. I might even, when this one dies, I might get an ID22, or I might just replace it with another ID40, another ID14. I do like the idea of the ID44, but the 14 just, when I got it, what did I pay? $200. I think there was a price issue when I got it, and they listed it for $200. It was $300 at the time. I saw it for $200. I'm like, I'm buying this. Sale went through. The sale went through. I was shocked. So, and Audient they changed the game as far as I'm concerned with their ID22. And prior to that, they had a preamp. I can't remember the name of it, but that changed the game too. It really did. And there's a lot of people say that the preamps on the Audient sound like API. I don't know. I've never recorded with an API preamp. I wish I have by this point, but I haven't, and I'll take their word for it. And I'm pretty happy with the results. I can definitely tell a difference between the Behringer and the Audient, but it's not like a huge night and day difference. But it's enough that I don't want to record the main tracks with the Behringer. I just think it would be a mistake when I know that the Audient preamps and converter are going to do a fantastic job. So the 88 8200 it's for the drums, and that's pretty much it. Okay. Yeah. Mixing is a race against the decay of your subjectivity and objectivity, and it takes about 8 to 10 years to be able to move quickly enough that you can overcome it. That is so true. That's so true, and it's also important. It's important to take breaks. It's important to maybe come back to a mix after 48 hours, and because you can get lost in it. You can really get lost in it, and ear fatigue is still a thing. Here we go. Misusing the term stems is not harmless. I often hear the argument that its improper use is now legitimized. I can't even begin to count how many times there has been wasted time in my career because somebody thought a multi-track is synonymous with stems. I'm not here to sit everyone down and give them a lesson, but I'm just saying that every time there is a conversation here about it, somebody always butts in with a, well, we know what you mean, or the terms are interchangeable. My blood's boiling a little bit even just reading this because it's so true. The terms are not interchangeable. It's simply not the right way to use it for the sole reason that it causes confusion. Similarly, the whole gain staging in floating point is irrelevant. I hate that stance. Gain staging, inputs, buses, in and out processing, outputs is important in the digital realm for numerous reasons. I'm not going to list them all, but I'm just going to think you're lazy if you're letting audio flow without any regard to the level being maintained. It takes 1 second to do right. That's correct. Yep. People are scared of heavy-handed EQ because of graphical parametric EQ plugins. Before plugins, engineers didn't see how much gain they were adding. They used their ears, that's true. Amateur mixes almost never have enough EQ sculpting because people are scared to see big dips and especially big peaks. Not me, man. I love cranking the and everything and cutting the and everything. Like, I don't know. I've always been that way though. And yeah, definitely use your ears, not your eyes when you're using those gain knobs. In fact, I think I have a video early on where I'm like, close your ears and move the knobs. Close your ears. Close your eyes. See, I told you guys I'm getting tired. Close your eyes and move the knobs. That was like one of my earliest videos. And yeah, I still say that's true to this day. People are too quick to tune a vocal. Yes. My goodness, I can't say it. I can't say it. I'll get in trouble if I do. Producers need to ask themselves if it's even necessary before reaching for tuning, or just put in a little extra effort to get it right during tracking. Amen, brother, amen. Unless you spent hours a day in Melodyne honing your craft, tuning is obvious. I don't care what anybody says. My ears notice it right away, especially with layered unison yes, vocals. It's not needed for every genre. Yes. And even subtracts from the aesthetic sometimes. Yes, 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 yes. This one is definitely more of a personal taste thing. That's true. But here we go. But I really dislike widening tools. A stereo chorus is cool, but these other plugins that smear phase and frequencies across the spectrum don't make mixes sound better, in my opinion. Widening is much more effectively done in the arrangement by layering inventively and using panning. That is very true. On top of that, not everything needs to sound wide. That's true. And then finally, let me give this guy a thumbs up or an arrow up. Nobody can tell if a track has a good mastering job without hearing the unmastered mix. That's true. That's so true. There is simply no way to tell what was achieved in that stage. Mixes can sound commercially ready before mastering if everything was done well and a limiter is applied. So how can anybody make an informed judgment on what the Jesus. Why do I keep cussing when I'm tired? Make an informed judgment. Judgment being spelled incorrectly is bothering me. On what the mastering engineer has done. The mix is 95% plus responsible for how a track sounds. Yes. Thank you for saying that. My goodness. My goodness. All right. Okay. He's adding the gain staging commentary. Here's a few tips. Level going into and out of a plugin should be gain staged properly. Check the plugin /out view meters but they don't always tell the whole story, especially compression. This way you can A/B with processing on and off and be able to make judgments without, judgments is spelled wrong again, without volume changes affecting the way you perceive. Additionally, if you add or remove a plugin after track levels have been set, you don't need to rebalance. That's true. I've started doing that, and it's helped. It's helped. It does make things a little bit tougher, but it does help if you're going to bypass things later on. Levels going into a group mix, submix, should be set at an appropriate level so that your subgroup fader can be at a workable position. For instance, if you have an ensemble of 5 harmony tracks that sit low in the mix and get grouped to a fader, excuse me again, send them to the group at the level they will appear in the mix so your group fader can live close to plus or minus 0, which will make your life much easier if you want to automate or change the level. You get better fader resolution close to 0. That's true. Or unity gain. Last one I'll point out is that analog modeling processing often works in a non-linear way and is input level dependent. Yes, it is. If you have an SSL master comp on your stereo mix, for instance, the compression will behave differently if you need to turn the threshold knob to one of the extremes. So, tracks should be sent to the master mix bus at an intentional level, not haphazardly, with no care to what the meters are reading. And with that, I'm going to wrap that up, give this guy one more arrow up, and I'm going to link to this thread below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you made it this far, then I appreciate it. And that's about it. Thank you all for watching.